Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Man's Hour, episode 53 on booze. I'm joined by a whole host of gentlemen of power this evening. We've got a packed house tonight, but first, making his Man's Hour debut is the one and only Chest Rockwell. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good to be here.
Sweet. Happy to have you, and you're going to provide quite a bit of knowledge on this subject, so I'm looking forward to hearing your takes. Next, we got Vince from the Masculine Geeks making his return once again. How are you, Vince?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. Good to see everybody.
Yeah, indeed. And next up, we got Paul from Come On Man Podcast. Did you put a new logo on your mic there, Paul? I haven't seen that before.
I'm the world manosphere champion.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I did. This is a mic flag. It's a mic flag. I wanted to order one from a company that makes them for this particular mic, but they were offended by my logo because it had a chick in a bikini. And
really?
so they wanted me to change my logo. I told them to
How dare you?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got it all done. When are you doing your Ultimate WrestleMania with Glenn Lawrence? When's that happening?
That's Summer Smash. Summer Smash. I'm going to be going to Las Vegas at the end of September. We're working with a company called Big Valley Wrestling, and we're actually gonna shoot it in a real ring in front of a live audience. Yeah.
Well, that's only going to be the 10th gayest thing that occurs in the Manosphere that day. So,
well, the funny thing about it is it's largely a parody, right? Like there's all these things in the Manosphere. The Manosphere is like fucking high school, you know. And there's all these guys that start beefing with each other. They threaten each other to boxing matches. I think Chesty actually got threatened with a boxing match once.
Yeah, I did.
By who?
Captain Dipshit Myron Gaines wanted to box me at one time.
Yeah.
It was funny because he put it out there directly on Twitter, and he was kind of
break
just
him in half.
he was kind of just making his way into the Rule Zero crew at the time, and they were giving him guidance on how to build his brand and all that good stuff between Rollo and mostly John, Modern Life John. And, he mentioned something about low IQ or whatever. And I said, you can't be spouting your dumb shit like you used to. You're with a different crew now. And he said something about, I'm bad enough, I'll challenge you to a boxing match or whatever. And about 4 seconds later, he got messaged by Rollo, Ryan, at the time, Rich Cooper, John, a couple of other people who said, you don't even know who you're fucking with. You have no clue as to what this person knows, how he runs behind the scenes behind everybody and knows exactly what's going on. You're completely out of your depth and cut it out. So it literally stopped about 10 minets later. He pulled the tweet and everything else, and it's been a joke ever since. But so Fresh, Fit challenged me to a boxing match at one time when he was still just a zygote in the Manosphere. So
yeah. So Glenn and my beef, it's largely a parody on shit like that in the Manosphere. We're challenging each other to settle it in the ring, settle our differences. It's all for fun. It's all fun.
It's great entertainment.
Yeah, indeed. And then finally, rounding out the panel, we got Roman from Opium Tales. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I got the shirt for this. I drink and I know things. I got this from the official Game of Thrones store in Croatia. Okay. And the funny story about that is this teenage kid tells his mom, said, hey, in America, there's a show called Game of Thrones, and Americans are going crazy about it. You need to contact HBO and ask them if you could open up the store. So she did, and they said yes, and now she owns 2 of them.
Wow. Huh. Smart kid.
So, yeah, listen to your kids. Sometimes they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. How are you doing with the Twitter censors censoring your art these days? This is horrible.
So, okay, I had to do a compromise. I know some people in Silicon Valley. Some people are actually pretty big. I actually met Jack Dorsey himself one time. I'll tell that story another day. But anyways, they said I had to do a bunch of things. So now I'm censoring my art. So I got off the shadow ban now. And it kind of sucks, but I hate being shadow banned. Just nobody was seeing my tweets.
So did you end up freeing Roxy's nipples or what? I mean, are we
yeah, there's now a box or a black box over them now. So it really sucks. I mean, but that's how I had to get out of the shadow ban.
I mean, it's definitely working. I'm seeing your tweets way more now than
yes.
I used to.
Yeah. So I know some big people at Google. I know some people at Twitter and some of the other places too. Silicon Valley is a very small place. You end up knowing a lot of people. And I could tell you something funny is that Twitter actually has better food than Google.
Really? I wonder if they still do now that Elon has taken over.
They probably don't, because Elon cut costs. So this is what I heard. So don't quote me on this, but I think I'm right. Twitter was getting a lot of money from the government, and that's how they were profitable. They're no longer profitable because they're not getting all kinds of money from the government anymore.
Yeah, I totally believe that. A lot of these Silicon Valley companies don't turn a profit at all. And it seems like Elon's turning Twitter into the one-stop joint for literally everything. Like pretty soon that's gonna have like a payment processor and all these other things. But we could talk about Skynet becoming self-aware some other time, because we are here to talk about alcohol and booze. So, gents, obviously, all of us here are Americans, and booze has a very long and historic tradition in America. I mean, for God's sake, there was a rebellion, the Whiskey Rebellion. People will be familiar if they paid attention in high school history class. But what do you guys think about the, the stereotype of, Americans not handling their booze very well? It's kind of weird how we have like the really old drinking age here, like 21. But when you go over to Europe, I mean, I just went over there for the first time a couple months ago, and everyone drinks there at a young age, and boy,
I have a funny Navy story about that if you want to hear it.
Shoot, Paul, go.
So when I was first in the Navy and I was going to Australia, this was in '98. I was very junior enlisted, and when we're getting ready to pull into port, we have this safety brief, right? And one of the things that all the chiefs and officers get together and they tell us how to be safe in town. And one of the things that they said is, hey, look, Australians have a much higher alcohol tolerance than Americans do. Okay. They basically have been drinking since they were 3. Their beer is stronger here, all this kind of stuff, right? Do not try to get into some kind of drinking contest with the Australians. And of course, all of us sailors are like, is that a challenge? I think we want to test this theory. So yeah, that was the mentality going into Australia, was let's challenge everybody to a drinking contest. And I don't think any of them could hold their liquor any better than American sailors could.
Interesting. I mean, my experience when I my experience, I just went over to Europe for the first time in my life, like 3 or 4 months ago. And I was drinking with a bunch of buddies of mine in like outside of London. And I was just amazed. Like, those Brits can put away their drink, man. I was blown away. They're just knocking them back like crazy. I don't know what they do there, but I don't know. Maybe there is something to that. Like, Americans, the drinking age is 21. Maybe people like actually are enforced to not drink at an earlier age. I don't know. I mean, I didn't start drinking until I was like maybe like 19 or something like that. I don't know about you guys, but you guys grew up at a different time than me too. So it was much cooler.
I pretty much started heavily drinking at 18 when I was in the Navy, because that was what everybody was doing.
So with Generation X, I could just speak for California. Everyone had fake IDs. Everybody knew they were fake. They didn't even look that real, and nobody cared, because at the time things weren't enforced. So that changed. Now, I think it was the 90s when they really started enforcing on cracking down on fake IDs. Vince, was it that way in Pennsylvania?
I don't know. I don't live in Pennsylvania.
Or
I live in New Jersey.
Back east. That's right.
New Jersey, which
my bad,
is next door to Pennsylvania. No, that's fine. So for myself growing up, alcohol wasn't a huge problem as far as a big taboo, like, oh, don't do that, because my father drank beer here and there. In fact, he drank Heineken. I remember him watching, it was either boxing or baseball on television, having on the left side of the the recliner, had a beer. And I'm like, Dad, can I try that? What is that? And he tells me what it is and lets me try it. And it was the most disgusting thing I'd ever tasted. So at that point, beer was off the table for me. And it's only until recently that I've developed a palate for it. Around holidays, we were allowed to have wine. And here I am, 8 years old, drinking wine with my parents at Christmas and Thanksgiving. It wasn't a huge deal. So growing up, getting a fake ID, I was like, I just don't care. It's not a thing. It was never a thing. I drank at home and that was cool. And I was here and there and basically holidays and my birthday. So I can't speak to the New Jersey fake ID mill. So I'm sure it was out there. I remember my friends talking about it, but I never personally experienced that. So
interesting. Chess, what about you? When did you start drinking in earnest?
In earnest. I've never really drank in earnest, to be honest. I learned early on that quality was a lot better than quantity. I mean, you basically just have to get sick that first couple of times on real trash before you realize that it's better to drink something that is a little more expensive, doesn't have the issues with weird impurities or anything like that. I mean, I remember guys sitting around drinking charcoal filtered malt liquor by the 40 ouncer. And, 40, that's basically poisoning yourself.
It's like gasoline.
Well, yeah, but back then it was the whole thing was the Billy D. Williams commercials, for Colt 45. And there were some of the other ones for Old English and Big Bear. Those were all malt liquors. And so my first experience with beer wasn't until after 21. Everything before that was all hard liquor, just crappy wine and malt liquor. And it's one of the reasons why I never drank a lot. Huh? I'm sorry?
Break out your Zima.
Well, yeah, Zima is technically a chick's malt liquor, but now they have the White Claw, which is exactly the same thing, but it's in a can instead of pretty glass bottles. So now we've got, Gen Z growing up with a new type of lamer Zima, if that's possible.
Right.
I can't stand that stuff. It tastes terrible. Tried it once and immediately knew it's not for me.
There was a guy I was mess cranking with in the Navy, and he was a raging alcoholic. He was from Alaska, and he was 21, and he and I became pretty good friends. And so after work, I would drive him to the liquor store because I had a car and he didn't. And then he would buy us like 4 40s of King Cobra malt liquor.
Oh my God.
And then we would go to like a park or something, just get absolutely fucking trashed. That was our after hours fun, Sad.
Yeah, definitely in my time, like around when I was like 19 and 20 and such, everyone was just always going for the light beer as possible, like like the frat boy beer, like your natural ice or like your Keystone or whatever, like the cheapest shit you could possibly get in bulk, to provide at the parties and everything. You basically need to drink an entire 12-pack yourself in order to feel anything because my piss contains more alcohol than that stuff, so that's basically where I got my bread and butter on that.
Mm-hmm. You got to learn. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, pretty much. And then my roommate at the time when I first moved in was 19 years old, and it was like we weren't on a dry campus, but we went to it was still like frowned upon. They were still checking everything, but it wasn't totally dry. But it was like, I know a guy who knows a guy that can get us liquor kind of deal. And what we ended up doing is we got 192 proof imported from Warsaw, Poland, to us. And because we figured we're like, we'll get the strongest stuff and pay, bulk for it and such. So we don't have to keep going to the liquor store multiple times. We can hide it easier. We don't have to drink too much of it. Boy, oh boy, was that a mistake. So we ended up taking shots of it out of like one of those. You guys know when you buy a bottle of NyQuil, they give you the small little cup, like Dixie cup,
Oh, yeah.
that comes
Yep.
with it. Yeah, that's what we were taking shots out of it because we couldn't take a full hit out of an actual shot glass because it's basically rubbing alcohol. So yeah, drink that a little bit, and you realize everyone wakes up with the hangovers the next day. It's like, I'm never going to drink again. Yeah, it was definitely one of those moments.
Yeah, one of the party drinks they used to have back when is they would take a very similar high proof alcohol where we're at. It's called Everclear, and it's a 190. It's a 190 proof alcohol.
Yeah,
and you would poke a hole in a watermelon, and you just basically jam a couple bottles of that into the melon, depending on the size. And you would just let it macerate and tear apart the inside of all that watermelon flesh, and then you would hollow it out the rest of the way, add a few different types of fruit to it, and you would drink it right out of the watermelon. And
like a punch bowl.
Yeah, right. They called it jungle juice, and
Yep.
stuff would annihilate you. So that was always you bring a cup of that to whatever girl you're have your sight set on that afternoon, and be careful with it. This is pretty strong. Oh, this tastes really good. I don't think it's that strong. Oh boy.
In 6th grade, we had like a science fair, and my science project was taking Everclear and pouring it on an egg. It'll basically cook an egg. It's pretty hardcore shit. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, on the same topic of like the jungle juice and such, me and my friends, when we would get together when we were like seniors in college, we'd have these big parties. You'd have the giant pot with all the juice in it, right? And you'd basically, we called it the peace pot, and you'd pass like the pot around the entire party. And if anyone set it down without passing the pot to somebody else, you had to pay the penalty. So if someone caught you, like you set it down without handing it off to somebody else, like it could never be set down until it was empty. So, yeah. And that was always fun. You got like, a house of like 20 dudes. And
what was the penalty?
Oh, it would vary, depending on whatever it was. One time, somebody took off a belt and just whipped this guy's bare ass in front of everybody. Like
Christ.
the stupid shit that you do.
Towel snapping.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, National Lampoon's Animal House.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Nice.
But I don't know, guys. We're talking about all these, like I guess you would call it negative side effects of alcohol and such. But at the same time, people still love it, and they still take part in it for sure. So let's go through like some of the actual positives. Like everyone's I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but oh man, we got a WD style run in here from Mish, Chat of Arabia. I'm sure he has all kinds of things to say about alcohol in his part of the world. I hear it's extremely legal there. It's encouraged by everyone. You get a free bottle of booze when you're 17. You know all about this subject, my friend.
That's right.
Allahu Akbar, my friends.
Good to see you. Yeah.
How's everyone doing tonight?
We're doing well, man.
Not bad.
Yeah. So guys, why do you think people always will gravitate back towards alcohol and such, even though everybody has like these negative experiences with it? There's got to be something positive that goes along with it too. So lay it on me, fellas. Why should people get into actually drinking booze?
How many of us were born because of alcohol?
Probably,
seriously.
Yeah, probably.
My parents would never admit it, but
That's a good question.
That's how our son was born.
It builds empires in a variety of ways.
It's a good social lubricant.
Mm-hmm.
For guys that they have a hard time breaking out of their shell and talking to people. They it gives them that liquid courage, right?
Yeah, it's one way for men to show camaraderie and be generous. Hey, I'm going to buy this round. Hey, you're going to get this round. It's a back and forth, and something that's relatively cheap. I mean, back in the 1800s, you can get a thing of beer for what a growler of beer, which is a growler of beer back then was actually a pail, and that was a nickel. So not bad.
Yeah. Alex Patino, the Latino truck driving in the field, brings up a good point here is men must have vice no matter what. And yeah, I think I generally agree with that for sure. You know, you gotta have something going on in your life, right?
But I would reiterate and agree with Cheston saying that the quality over the quantity is what's important, because I look at drinking as an art. It's a social lubricant, of course. It's enjoyable. It augments my dinner, especially wine, and it's a bit of a creative muse behind alcohol. As you know, I very rarely am I drunk where I'm puking. That I've left those days far behind me. That's not part of my path. But as far as an art, I would say drinking is definitely an art form.
Honestly, I have nothing but good things to say about alcohol. I have the craziest stories. Like last weekend, literally, I don't remember anything.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I think we made the newest part of the hangover.
Talk about the blind tiger.
I don't know how I woke up in my bed. Apparently, my girl, she picked me up and she drove me and my friend back.
She dragged you home.
Yeah. And she took off my clothes and everything, and she laid next to me in bed and made sure that I woke up to a good meal and everything. And she said I went crazy. So
shit. God damn.
I'm celebrating, my friend. I'm taking down an international company.
Yeah, you were telling us about that in the chat. You know, international man of mystery here. You know,
cool.
Nice work, my friend. You know, so we're glad you're celebrating, indeed. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Vince. I mean, I feel like you have to get through the the I will never drink again kind of phase, and to the point where you're throwing up and stuff. I've always had issues with this because I got a pretty weak stomach, in this regard. So, but I'm definitely at the point now over the last couple of years where, yeah, you know what, I know how much I need to get where I need to be, and I don't need to test any more than that. And also, when you get to a certain age, you just don't get pressured into doing things you don't really want to do anymore. It's like, oh, come over here and take the shot of tequila with me. It's like, no, I don't really like tequila. I'll drink whatever I want. And,
I don't know what it is. I don't like tequila that much either.
Yeah, it's knowing what alcohols are the problem ones for you. Like if you drink too much sweet stuff, that tends to make you sicker. I could do shots of Jameson, no problem. But if I go do shots of Jose Cuervo or something like that, or Sauza, I'm gonna hurl. I'm gonna fucking hurl. Yeah.
I'm pretty much the same way, Paul. Yeah, I could do like whiskey and bourbon all day, but give me like some tequila and there's gonna be problems.
That was when I was married. That my now ex-wife's side of the family, that was their tradition at Christmas. All the men got together in the kitchen and would do shots of Sauza tequila, and so you're a man, you got to go do it. And so it was just like fuck, this is like the worst tradition. Why? Like, who started this?
Yeah, tequila is not good, man. Like last weekend, I remember I was taking shots of tequila and literally I don't remember anything. Like there was a fight in the club and I had to drag my friend out, and yeah, it was fun time. But yeah, I'm not doing tequila again.
Nice.
Yeah, no, everybody's got an alcohol that works with them, and everyone's got one that doesn't work with them, and I guess that's part of the adventure, right?
Beer and whiskey.
Yeah.
Talking about that, I'm gonna make my own beer this weekend.
Well, that's a good topic that we should segue into, and we got the man on the panel to address this one. So, Chess, you brewed your own beer.
He's the master.
Tell us about that, man.
Brewing my own beer. Well, I mean, the infamous story is the one that Vince is highly familiar with because of we had a little bit of a dust up on Twitter, and people were screwing up a thread I was in, and somebody basically said, well, you're being super butthurt about it. And I said, well, I
remember this.
I could always make a beer based on that. And somebody had mentioned, well, we're going to be having a meetup soon. And I said, okay, well, let me know when and where.
Yep,
and I said,
there was the village by the lake.
Yep. Yeah. Salt Lake. And,
yep.
and I said, I said, okay, well, challenge accepted. I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys in September. And
That was awesome.
And so I brewed 5 gallons of a Hefeweizen, which I called obviously butthurt Hefeweizen. And it's
good.
It was a filtered Hefeweizen, so it was clear and had a lot of fruit notes to it, banana and peach, because of the type of yeast that I used. And I kegged it in 2.5 gallon kegs, threw them in the back of the Beamer, and drove all the way to Salt Lake with about 40 pounds of ice. And
That was awesome.
made it there in record time, and met up with Rob, Vince, and TJ, the Masculine Geeks, at Rob's place. And wasn't there more than 10 minutes after the obligatory gift exchanges. And cool. We were drinking the first keg. So it was.
I have a video of you broaching it.
It's so cool.
So yeah. So I mean, I made wine, a port that I brought that Vince finished a bunch of, but he couldn't take it back with him because he was flying. So he left that with Rob. And I made the beer, and then I brought tobacco and silver for TJ, and cigars for Rob. So that was kind of the, I'm a good guest. I come bearing gifts. So that was the weekend. And so we shot the shit for a while, did some writing, did some off the cuff podcast stuff. Met some even bigger dorks out for
that was crazy.
Out at the outback in the suburbs of Salt Lake. And then my 3 days there was done, and I had to get back to work. And so I hopped back in the car and fucking did that massive drive back home. And it was a good time. But so lesson here is if you got the time and the resources, and somebody makes you a big enough dare, I might show up at your place with a bunch of beer. So that's how it ended up.
Yeah, it was a good adventure.
So, but yeah, I mean, making your own beer has its advantages. Obviously, you can control a lot of the process, the cleanliness, the freshness. But also you're in control of all those things. And if you fuck them up, your beer will tell you so. So it's kind of a double-edged thing. You're making your own thing to your specifications. But if anything goes wrong in the production process, you just basically have garbage water, in bottles or in a keg, and you'll be drinking it by yourself if you do it all. So if you're going to go about it, there are a lot of resources for it, but rule number one with beer making or alcohol making in general is cleanliness. Everything needs to be spick and span, very, very clean, if not completely sanitized when you go through the various stages of the process.
Yeah.
Yep.
How
that reminds me of my first beer I made. It was a total shit show.
Oh, really? I know.
Was it because you didn't have it? It wasn't clean, or what? Or just you didn't know what you were doing?
I didn't have any clear instructions. I just poured everything inside the keg and just closed the lid and waited 9 days for it to be ready. And it wasn't the best beer, but like the 8 other batches after that, it was the most amazing beer. It was like, I think it was a Corona, the one I made. I think I have 2 more. Yeah.
What do you guys think of a Mr. Beer kit? Is that for wannabes?
No, to be honest, in the very beginning, if you're brewing with extracts, like it's like a can filled with what looks like a syrup in it, and you pour it in and you mix it with whatever water you need to add to it, and the yeast. That's perfectly fine. That gives you an idea of how the process is done. You're basically taking a grain and you're extracting all the sugars and starches from it and boiling it along with hops in order to get a generalized flavor profile. And then once it's cooled down, you pitch or add yeast to it. And it ferments for a certain period of time until it produces, what you're intending to make. And those beer kits have a way of simplifying a lot of that, and it gives you a good insight into how the process works. But again, even if it's one of those kits like that, you still have to take into account cleanliness more than anything else. It's just one of those things. You can't just throw things together and expect it to work. I think on top of the kit and the instructions that they have with it, I also recommend some other resources that you could look at while you're doing that to kind of augment your knowledge about it, so you get a good product the first time around. There's a couple of books that I like. I like the Homebrewer's Recipe Guide, which is a good book. And then the main one, which I call the current Bible of Brewing, it's called How to Brew, and it's by a guy named John Palmer. And it's a pretty thick book with a bunch of details on how to make beer from either using grain to do it or using extracts, which are basically the concentrated boiled down grains that you can then add water back to in order to make your beer. And there's nothing, any less manly or unaccomplished by making beers with extracts. It just takes a little bit of guesswork out of the process. And most of those extracts now are made by companies that understand that the hobby is serious enough. If they didn't do a good job doing it, people would just switch to a different company. So no shame at all in starting that way.
So it's a good starting point then, at least.
Yeah, it is. Because most of your initial recipes will even start with malt extracts. Normally there are LME, which are light malt extracts, and DME, which are dark malt extracts. And then there are liquid and dry malts. And like that indicates one of them is kind of like almost like a frozen concentrated juice can, but about 3 times the size. You break it open with a can opener and you pour it out, and it's just this very viscous, almost like you guys familiar with STP engine treatment? When you pour that out of the can, it's like a very viscous yellowish color. Well, that's what these extracts are like. Many cases, similar color, similar thickness, but they're just a very concentrated mix of different sugars from grains that you use to brew with.
Interesting. How much space do you need to work on this stuff? Can you just do it out of your garage, or do you need to have a space in the backyard? I'm totally unfamiliar with this process.
No, well, the thing that I would recommend having is if you grew up with grandparents or parents who had, you remember canning pots. They're a large pot that are either enamel or completely stainless steel or aluminum that are hold about 10 gallons of liquid. Those are what I would recommend doing it on a stovetop with, because you brew in 5-gallon batches and you want enough headspace, meaning, air above the rim of whatever vessel you're cooking in, so to avoid boilovers. Because a lot of the process requires that you add all of this stuff together and then you set it on a boil for an hour. And then the last 15 minutes, you throw in additional hops, and then you turn everything off and you cool it and strain it. So you really just need some counter space in your kitchen or an island and a couple of burners available. And that's about it. You can do 5 gallons, in an afternoon pretty easily, just so long as you have some of the basic equipment.
Huh. Interesting. People can definitely take a look at all those resources that Chess is pointing it to. But so what was the thought process going into you just decide one of these days, hey, I want to brew my own thing. I need another project. I need another skill I want to pick up. What was the thought?
Yeah, I mean, at one point I was, I started with wine first, and then I moved over to mead too, which is, alcohol made from honey. And I wanted something that was a little more hands off, like mead, but more people understood. So that's what kind of got me into beer, because wine takes a long time. Once you get your grapes crushed and your yeast added, that's a longer process. That's a couple-year process before you get what you want out of it. Beer can be, in as little as a couple of weeks. Same with mead, and it can be enjoyed fresh. And in many cases, it's better fresh than it is aged. And that's the difference between that and wine. Wine is normally better aged than fresh. So, if you're going to a party and you want to present something to somebody or have a good time with something, beer is quicker. And that's one of the reasons why you get into that as a host and things like that.
Yeah, makes sense. For sure. Anybody else got any stories about this? I mean, Mish, I'm assuming you got into this because in your part of the world, it's not exactly, as easy as walking down the street to pick up a beer.
Expensive, honestly. It's expensive just to get a bottle of, I don't know, like a vodka. It's going to cost you a fortune. Up to like $400-$500 per bottle. Like beer is insane.
No shit, really.
Yeah, beer is like $80, $90 a bottle. It's all black market shit. So yeah, I just got myself a machine called Brew Art. It cost me a little bit of fortune to get over here. It cost me around, I think, $1,500 just to ship. And yeah, I can just make my own beer easily at home.
Huh. There you go. Are you like the supplier amongst your friends over there? Like
no, dude, I give them a taste, but nobody's gonna drink from it. I took the risk. Fuck them. Yeah, like honestly, my wallet is happy. It cost me like $35 just to ship a box of like a 10-liter just to make the mix.
Yeah, interesting.
It's way cheaper than buying a whole bottle for $400, man.
Oh yeah, I can imagine so, for sure. But yeah, let's go back to the actual alcohol as a social lubricant. Roman, you brought up the point how most people were probably born via some combination of alcohol, and that is probably very, very true. I don't know. I mean, definitely for myself, thinking off the top of my head, at least 75% of my lays ever, alcohol has somehow been involved. Whether it's meeting a chick at a bar, for the date or something like that, or, picking her up in like a college party or whatever. Like there's booze somehow involved in some way. So
our son already knows. He knows the truth. So it wasn't for alcohol, he wouldn't exist. But the other thing that somebody else brought up, and I forgot the writer's name, he was saying that one of the problems with American corporations is back in the 60s and the 70s, people used to drink together as a company. So you would go out with your friends from work and then you drink, and that would create a bond, a real genuine bond, which we're missing today because not enough coworkers go out and drink together. So when, Bob gets laid off, you don't really care because you didn't even really get to know Bob. But back in the days, back in the 70s, Bob gets laid off. It's like, this is your drinking buddy. This really pisses you off. So this is another reason why alcohol is such an important part of our culture. I wish I could give the writer credit. That's not me, but I 100% agreed with him.
Well,
I worked at a company where we had beer Fridays. They'd bring out beer on a cart every Friday. It was fucking awesome. Then I brought it up with the next company I worked for, and they were worried about liability issues.
And I being the attorney in the room, I understand the liability issue talk all the time. The thing that I'm seeing though now with this next generation is that more people are into weed than they are alcohol, and that's creating its own set of problems. One of the best, I guess you could say, American beer stories they would be considered pretty much the first, I guess, microbrewery in the United States back in the 1880s. They're closing now. It's Anchor Brewing Company, and one of the very first truly American, startups in the beer industry. It didn't have any German roots or nothing. It's a beer that's very uniquely American. It's a steam style beer, and they're closing. InBev or Sapporo, one of the companies, I believe Sapporo owns that company now. They said, well, it's underperforming, and we're very bottom line about this, and we don't care if the company's been around for over 130 years. It's gone. So there's a lot of history that goes along with alcohol too. What happened with Prohibition and how some of these companies ended up surviving, what they did to continue to make money. They switched over to soda pop or medicine, or started making candies and breads and things like that, just to keep the doors open while they fought the good fight to end all of this sobriety bullshit. Mm-hmm. And getting back to the issue of the social lubricant from a male female dynamic, I think that alcohol also offers women in particular plausible deniability when it comes to hooking up. They have a tendency to quote unquote sleep with guys they normally wouldn't sleep with, and then they have an excuse to why that happened, because I may have had a little bit too much to drink that night, as opposed to I really wanted to sleep with that dude anyway, but all my friends would give me shit if I just went ahead and did that without the alcohol involved. So I can use this then as a little bit of an excuse for my behavior, as opposed to just doing what I wanted to do to begin with. Mm-hmm. But
absolutely true.
Anchor Steam is excellent. It's from San Francisco, so it was really sad you said that, Chest. I had no idea. It's actually one of my favorite beers.
Yeah. They're unless somebody comes in and buys them, they're going to be gone before the end of the year. So.
Yeah, you were bringing up the issue earlier, Chest, about like Zoomers and Gen Alpha just like aren't drinking at all. It seems like they're just a generation like just completely deprived of vice, like in all manners. Like they're not really fucking, they're not drinking, they're not like partying. They're just like I don't know. What do they do? Like just chill on Discord or something? I don't know.
It's the Panopticon society where everybody is monitoring everybody else's behavior. We're our own jailers. We just basically tattle on one another whenever we fuck up in any way. And when that happens, and on a society writ large, we lose our sense of autonomy, and we feel as though that safety is more important than individuality or freedom. And it's a disease. Part of, going out and doing what you want to do and having vices and having things, hidden from others and even sometimes from yourself is the fact that that's your thing and you don't have to share it with the rest of the world. And if you like to drink, absinthe on the weekends and nobody knows about it, that's your thing. That's your ritual. And a lot of people now don't see any value in that because they're always afraid of what other people are going to say. Either it's a shaming aspect of it, or it's you've screwed up once. We got to get it out there to the rest of the world, and you have to pay your penance to all the retards on the internet. And that's an issue with me, because I just don't find it very good in a low trust society where everybody is always monitoring the behavior of others. It's the Reddit mods run amok, in the world, trying to make everything the way that they want it instead of fun. And, and everybody else's form of fun is different from everybody else's. And if you can't have fun, there's really no point in any of this, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Definitely a good point. I mean, there certainly is that Panopticon feeling with the social media and phones literally being everywhere. I mean, surely you guys see these videos that come up on Twitter almost daily, like a fight breaks out, and the first thing everyone does is goes and reaches for their phones, to go and record it or something like that. I mean, it's weird for me because I was in college just when this was like starting to become way more like prevalent. Like Twitter and Facebook usage and stuff was just becoming, everyone was using it right when I was like about to graduate college. So I can't imagine what it's like now, like being like a high school boy or something like that. And absolutely everything you do is going to be recorded in some way or another.
Right. And you're also prone to have somebody try and provoke you just so they can get some content too, which is even more insane.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. There's a whole market of that. Like those, like the prankster people and stuff like that. Yeah.
Live. You just have to ignore people sometimes and learn, what you want to consume and what you don't. And that's kind of the same thing with alcohol. You have tons of choices, figure out what you like and, use in moderation. And some people just can't control themselves and they don't need to do it. But at the same time, I think that being completely deprived of things doesn't flex the muscles of, people being moderate in any way. Either people are full bore, completely into something to the point of it being an obsession, or they're not into anything at all. And, most good things kind of lie in the middle between those two those two extremes. What is it? Aristotle used to talk about Aristotelian means. It's essentially, where good traits exist between two really, really bad traits. So, you can have courage between being reckless and a coward. It's a trait that people have, that you earn and you learn based on experience. And a lot of these people just don't want to experience anything. They just want to be told what to do so that they can go through their lives and be ignored and keep their head down as much as possible. And
they're afraid of doing life wrong.
Well, yeah, and that's and I think that's a lot of the problems too with the guy-girl stuff is you're too afraid not to get shot down. You're playing life not to lose instead of to win. And you have to go out there and you have to take your lumps. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I could definitely speak to that angle for sure. Growing up in like a tradcon circle kind of deal and just being super over obsessive about how like the first girl you have to meet and have to approach, you have to get it perfectly right because this girl's going to be your wife. You're kind of fed all this nonsense from a young age that your parents didn't have like multiple relationships and the stars just aligned and they caught eyes from across the party and it was love at first sight kind of stuff, which is obviously a load of bullshit in 99% of cases. So it gets you into like an analysis paralysis of like, oh, well, I need to get everything perfect on the right go because this is basically like my only shot. And if I fail at this, then therefore I'm a failure in the eyes of everybody else,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. If I married the first person I slept with, my life would have been a complete shit show.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Have any of you guys like found the gal you lost your virginity to on Facebook?
I had actually somebody write me under the guise of some type of approaching me professionally, and she was just trying to see what I was up to. So yeah, I've experienced that, but in the opposite way.
The chick that I lost my virginity to, she was fucking gorgeous, man. She looked like, do you guys know you know who Fran Drescher is, right? She's real hot, but her voice is annoying. Yes. This chick looked like a very young Fran Drescher without the annoying voice, when I was dating her, and now she looks like a water buffalo. So, so I definitely dodged the bullet there,
Yeah. Gorlak the Destroyer, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, a couple of you guys are dads on this panel here. So what do you have to say about, introducing the kids to alcohol and stuff? You're talking about like moderation earlier, Chest.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's always that like argument. This is something a lot of my European friends like lob at Americans and such, particularly like Italians, because like the drinking age is like 14 and they just don't have a problem with like drunkenness over there to, I guess, the same extent over here. I mean, I definitely went wild and crazy when I got out of the house, and I didn't really drink any alcohol in the house before I got to college. So maybe there is some truth to that. What can you guys say?
My well, I have two kids. The daughter's 16 now, so she's already going to parties and things like that. And my rule has always been to never make it a forbidden fruit or really taboo. If you want to have some with dinner or you want to try something, hell, I'll make you a mixed drink. You're having it here in the house. I don't give a shit. If you've heard somebody talk about something that they've consumed before, well, sure. I'll give you a little bit of it. You can try it yourself and see if it's something that you like. But at the same time, mine and my wife's policy on it is that protect first, punish second. So like if she's out and she knows that she's going to either not make the best decisions, she's not feeling well, or she might take off with somebody who has already been drinking and go driving someplace. The phone in the door is always open to call us to come and get her. So if she's fucked up, sloppy, drunk, or whatever, at somebody else's place, and I come get her and I grab her and I take her home, there isn't going to be any lecture. There isn't going to be any type of, reprisal right there, in front of her friends or, even in the car ride on the way home, because that's not what we're there for. We're there basically for her to trust us, to tell us, okay, I'm in a bad way. I really need your help. I need to get the hell out of here. So maybe a day later, maybe the next day while she's got a headache, I say, yeah, now you know what it's like, something to that effect. But it's not going to be a, fire and brimstone, you're going to hell. Don't you know what the law is, that type of thing. I'm more concerned about just making reasonable decisions and knowing when to say when. And if you're in a bad spot, just being able to trust me enough to get you out of there, and we'll talk about it later. That's kind of my whole attitude with it.
Mine's very similar. When I was in high school, I distinctly remember my mom saying, if you're ever drunk at a party, I want you to call me. Now I'm going to be mad at you, and you're going to get a lecture, and you're going to get, in trouble, and you're going to be grounded, but I at least want to make sure you're safe. And I was like, there's no way I'm fucking calling you. There's no way I'm calling you, because the last thing I want to do is get lectured by you, and I don't want to get grounded. So I'd rather take my chances with the cops, So that was my mentality as a rebellious teenager. So I have a very similar mentality when it comes to my kids as Chess. I tell my daughter, I go, hey, if you go out and you're stupid at a party and you're too drunk to drive, call me. I won't say anything. I will just come and get you. I'll bring you home. No questions asked. And the next morning I might say, hey, do you need an aspirin or something, for that headache? I think her hangover will be punishment enough. And there's no need for me to get on her case about it. And I'd much rather her call me, and know that she could call me, than her taking her chances with the cops because she's afraid that I'm going to lose my shit over it.
Yeah. Well, you can subtly punish them in other ways too. My whole first floor of my house has internal speakers in the corners of just about every room. So like she'd come down for breakfast, and I had the one morning Iron Maiden up about 55, 60 throughout
pounding.
Is
this music great?
I just had a desire to hear some Number of the Beast this morning. How are you? Can I get you anything? So yeah, so I mean, it's it's a fine line between, teaching lessons and being a taskmaster. And when it comes to alcohol, I don't want them to be completely put off the subject or to make it taboo to where, you got these kids who they binge drink when they're alone with their buddies because that's the only time they have any access to it. And that's the only time that it's acceptable to do anything, is to do it in large amounts and short amounts of time. And, that's more dangerous to me than it is to not look at a substance as, some type of forbidden fruit where you're going to abuse it as much as you can, as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
When the parents aren't around.
What you just described right there, Chess, is pretty much my entire experience with alcohol when I was growing up. Trad-con family, drill sergeant dad, absolutely not drinking the booze at all. And then when I got to college, I was mentioning about the that 192 earlier. When we first got that bottle and we were, just drinking it back in our dorm rooms, the campus police eventually got called to my dorm room because I was just drunk and out of control, being stupid. And I'll never forget it because I had learned this before. It was like, don't keep secrets from dad. You better go and call him and tell him, because if he finds out himself, there's going to be hell to pay. So I was just dreading this call for like the entire next day. I was like, oh shit, this is going to fucking suck. I might get pulled out of school. This is going to be terrible. But I was shocked when I got off the phone with my dad. And I told him, and he just said, you're an adult, go fix it, and just hung up. I was floored by that. I never thought that those words were going to come out of his mouth.
Well, I mean, at a certain point, you kind of got to let the kids face the music on their own. I mean, plus two, what's he going to do? He's going to pull you out of school and then you get to go right back home. And I'm sorry, but when my kids are out, I'm going to be, chasing my wife with a pair of pliers and whatever else I can get my hands on. I mean, there's a whole cog blocking segment of life, bringing your kids back home, and I'm not going to go ahead and do that over some drinking. You're gonna fix that shit yourself. I've got some running around to do with your mom. I don't have time for this shit. So that's how I look at it. I mean, by the time my kids get completely out of the house, I'm going to be in my mid 50s, and I don't want to see you again living in here at this point. I mean, I want to retire, slow down financially, and if I punish you for everything you do as an adult, like you're still an adolescent, I'm not helping you out at all. All I'm doing is making sure you don't harm yourself while I make myself miserable. There comes a point where you have to teach your kids to be adults, because, by and large, you're going to spend the majority of your lifetime knowing them as adults longer than you will knowing them as children. So, teach them to be responsible adults and not continue to be children. It just makes sense.
Yeah, indeed. Roman, what about you? You got an older boy, yeah?
Yeah, we were closer to Paul, except we were a little extreme. We just said, if you guys are going to drink, crash the night over here. And we would sometimes have 8 to 10 kids on our floor. And it was just a weird thing, but
enabler. No.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess we were, but it was better that we knew where they were. We knew their parents, because his high school was very close knit. They were cross country runners. So all the parents knew each other, and they would just all crash over at our place. And, we'd just come home and there'd be all these kids, and half of them were drinking, half of them weren't. And they would all be playing video games. And that's just how it was. So we normalized just everybody be honest. And that's the only rule. Just tell the truth. And that's it. I really don't care what you do as long as you tell the truth. And the other thing is, if you get drunk at somebody else's house, either spend the night there or call me up and I'll pick you up. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to make sure you drink water in the morning. And that's it.
Yeah, seems like a sound strategy all around, indeed. Before we wrap things up here, guys, everyone's got a certain, wild drinking story to tell. Like when you when you're with your bros, like you're either doing something stupid or you guys know what happens. You get with your buddies and somebody brings up a funny story. You know, it's like, oh man, do you guys remember when we did that stupid thing that one time? Does anybody have any hilarious stories they want to share to the rest of the guys, and we can all laugh at them?
I got a story from my Navy day. The Navy days was my main drinking time, but there was a time we went down to Tijuana, because before you turn 21, everyone goes down to Tijuana, especially in San Diego. So went down to Tijuana one night with a bunch of my sailor buddies. Went to man, I can't remember the name of this place, but there was a lot of different places there off of Revolution Avenue in Tijuana where you just pay a cover charge, and then they just give you free drinks all night. Basically, you just order around for the table and just give the guy $1, right? And you just get absolutely smashed. And we're all drinking Sex on the Beach, right? And I got so fucking drunk, I ended up throwing up in the bathroom there in a Tijuana bathroom, and I passed out at the toilet. Just passed out on the floor there, fell asleep. And my buddies came in to check on me, and they're like, "Have you seen my friend?" The bathroom attendant's like, "Yeah, he's over there on the floor." And they're like, "Okay, he's cool." And they just fucking went back out drinking. And then finally they came back in like maybe 30 minutes later, and I'm still in there. And they're like, "You need to take your friend out of here." So they brought me. They picked me up, like cleaned me off a little bit, brought me to the table, and I fell asleep at the table. And they were like worried about me now. They're like, "Oh, he's got alcohol poisoning." So they started giving me water. And they're also putting straws and shit in my ears and, all that kind of fun stuff. Well, drinking the water gave me like a second wind. I just remember like getting up and starting drinking again. And I get up, I start dancing on the dance floor and like, grabbing chicks' asses and stuff out there. It was a great time. I got so fucking obliterated though, that I just remember that two of the guys were basically carrying me back across the border. It was a good night. It's a good night.
Classic. Anybody else got a hilarious one that's standing out to them?
Well, it's funny because sorry, go on, Nish.
No, go, you go.
Okay,
mine
so
it's kind of weird, but you go first.
2020 and 2021, I had good years financially, so I met over 20 of you in real life, and the absolute last person I got drunk with was actually one of our Twitter pals, and you all know her. I won't say her name. But she saw me. She had to stop the car real fast, and I got out of the car and threw up on the side of the road. But that's because I had the dumb idea that I was going to drink the same, like just say that Vince was drinking vodka, so I drink vodka, and Paul was drinking whiskey, and I'll drink whiskey, and Mish was drinking beer, and I'll have a beer with him. Bad idea. Just stick to one thing.
Yeah, generally good advice. All right, Mish, let us tell us about your story. Was there a goat involved?
I wish, dude. Like 2019, I remember one of my friends, he got catfished by a dude, and I convinced my friend to continue the relationship with the guy because we all know gay people. They have all the chicks. So I kept telling my friend, "Yeah, dude, just tell him whatever he needs to hear. Like he's gonna hook us up with free drinks and chicks." The gay guy invited us to a party, and he told my friend, "There are going to be chicks, bring your friends over." We went there. Obviously, there's a lot of drinks, free drinks. And for like 2 or 3 hours, I kept seeing dudes coming in the apartment, disappearing for like 20 minutes, and women coming out. And then it hit me. Shit. All of these dudes are just trannies. They all get shit-faced drunk. I didn't get that much drunk. Like I was still sober a little bit. They all got in a fight. All the gay people got in a fight, and the party was, the host was basically a prince. He was into that shit. So he took them all and then just went inside and just left us by ourselves with like I think 3 or 4 bottles unopened. So me and my friends, we just picked up the bottles, took whatever we could take, and just left.
There you go. Yeah, eject. Yeah, immediate evacuation, indeed. On the topic of funny stories, of course, there's always hilarious, culture around drinking games and such. And one that really stands out to me I had to be like 20 or 21 at the time. I was still in college, and I had like 6 or 7 guys that I was good friends with. We all lived on the same floor when we were freshmen in college, but we needed to take a philosophy course for our undergrad, right? And we all just decided to take the same exact course so we could all be in the same class together and just sit right next to each other and fuck around, basically. And I actually got this story from one of my dad's friends. And what they would do, and we ended up mimicking this, is people would go and buy the drinks, right? And you would get assigned a word or phrase you had to ask the teacher in the class. And if you didn't use your assigned word or phrase in front of the entire class, you didn't get checked off the list, and you had to buy the beer and the bottles for everybody else next time we went out to get the booze. So of course we would just try and screw each other over with like the most absurd phrases and things like this that somebody had to ask the teacher in class. And you could just imagine like 7, early 20s guys just snickering in the back of class, trying to keep it all together when the guy raises his hand and has to, ask, "Oh my God, is that a ferret?" To the teacher in class. And it was just fucking hysterical. We're just sitting there in the back of the classroom laughing our asses off. So that's a fun time indeed. If anyone's in the chat, you guys are still in college, go do that. You'll have a fun time. Anybody else got anything hilarious to share with us before we wind it down here?
No.
All right, go. There we go then. Well, a little bit over an hour here, so I guess we'll wrap everything up here. Thanks for coming, fellas. This is a fun time, and yeah, people should be partaking in alcohol. It's definitely fun, but know your limits, indeed. And there's some good information here as well if you guys want to go through.
There's an art behind it.
Yeah, there definitely is an art for sure. So we'll go around the horn here. Chesty, where can people find you?
I'm just on Twitter mostly now, shit posting. I don't make any money from the Sphere. I advise some other people on how to make money in the Sphere every once in a while. But for the most part, I'm hard at work in my law practice and raising my kids and just having fun and living life. I don't want to get involved in any of this dumb nonsense that most of the people are getting involved in at this point. Right. So, low profile shit posting, and I'll get banned someday, but not today. So we'll see.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Always a pleasure to talk. Vince, where can people find your stuff?
Well, you used to be able to find me on Twitter, but I've been banned. So I think it's going on 2
Again?
months now, and I have no. Yeah, I have no desire. I'll tell that story when we're not wrapping up the show. It's fucking ridiculous. So I have one social media account left. That's my Dennis Malone 1884 Instagram account. I have no desire to create anything else. I do not care. You can find me at masculinegeek.life or over at YouTube, where we broadcast every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Mainly D&D games. We have fireside chats, and here and there we have a guest, and that's Masculine Geek on YouTube. And I will say this, there's 2 books for you if you want to delve into history and the art of drinking. I'm a huge absinthe fan. I can credit Roman with rekindling my interest in absinthe. The Book of Absinthe, right here.
Oh, cool.
Take note of that. This is spectacular. It's a great read. This is called The Tavern. This is a fabulous history book about alcohol in the tavern and saloons and everything. So
cool.
The Tavern is by Stephen D. Barleen, Barleen, a rather fortuitous name for beer and alcohol. And the Book of Absinthe, A Cultural History, is by Phil Baker. They are worth your time and attention. And that's it for me.
Cool. Mish, what about you, man?
I've been off Twitter lately. Honestly, busy with what. So if anybody wants to follow me, they can find me at Chat of Arabia on Twitter. I don't know if I'm gonna keep that for long after what I'm doing. Maybe I just disappear.
Yeah, well,
you know where to find
it. He takes down KPMG and
exactly
in the Middle East. He'll have to run and hide.
Yeah, he causes an international incident. We'll have to store him in one of our basements. Yeah. Paul, what about you, man? What do you got on the pipe these days?
Oh, just subscribe to the podcast. It's available on all major podcast platforms. It's the Come On Man podcast.
Come on, man.
I have a live stream tomorrow. I do live streams every Wednesday and Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So tomorrow's stream is going to be on various ways that men can build their confidence, because a lot of guys don't have any confidence. They have no confidence. And the thing is, chicks sort of look at a guy with confidence the same way guys look at a great pair of cans. You know what I mean? They're hardwired to. Yep, they are hardwired to
tits.
To get it wet. For a guy with that shows confidence. Yeah,
that's true. You should do a show on tits.
Exactly,
dude. Where's my idea pad?
There we go. Yes.
All right,
Yeah,
that's enough ripping me off.
Yeah, yeah. Credit Vince with the different kinds of. Yeah,
that's right.
All right.
Well, I have my beer club now. That is a direct rip off of the masculine.
It's a complete. Not only that, when he found out about it. I don't really care, but I have to bust his balls. He found out about it. He was part of it. I brought him on as a guest. Within 2 weeks, he didn't even wait. He's like, I am going to steal this fucking idea.
I was like, this is a fucking great idea.
I know, right?
Have D&D games. It's gonna.
You bastard.
And finally, Roman, what do you got, man?
So I only have Opium Tales 2 on Twitter. I have an Instagram account, but I don't even look at it. And the only reason I have it is to meet the models. So I met Diana through there. I met Celeste through there. And that's the only reason I have it. So don't even message me through there. I won't see it. So Opium Tales 2 on Twitter. And I have a book coming out. I'm hoping late September, but we'll see.
Oh, cool, man. What's it on?
Nice.
It's on art, but also on game.
Oh, okay, cool. No,
and tits.
Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly.
Tits, the most important thing of all.
Absolutely. Yeah, and if you guys are looking into drawing some models, Roman's got a class. So
I took that course.
Yes.
So here I ran through it just to hear it and have it on in the background. I ran it through again, and now the third time I'm actually going to start the exercises.
Awesome. Okay.
So,
yeah,
it's good stuff. If you're interested, even have like a little bit of interest in drawing, and you're not sure because hey, all you can do is stick figures, which is all I can do. I would take Roman's course, and you'll be drawing more than stick figures. So yes, take it. It's good.
It's not like
thanks,
it's not like most of the Manosphere content where it'd be like draw a couple of circles, now draw the rest of the fucking owl. You idiot.
I know, right? I can see him doing that as a joke in the beginning. No, it's very comprehensive. It's step by step. Roman's got a great speaking voice, and it's well modulated and nice and slow, and yeah, you'll enjoy it. Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
check
I
it
am
out.
an assembly line. So it's just you finish this part, then you finish the next part, and so on. And it's just very like this.
Linear. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, linear.
Cool.
You got that Bob Ross voice going. So that's perfect.
Yeah, thanks. I study him.
Happy
Nice.
little clouds.
Yeah, nice. We're gonna draw this boob now.
Happy little.
It's fine.
Happy little nipple.
Happy big tits. Actually, now that I'm thinking of it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll definitely take that course at some point here, Roman, for sure. It's definitely
Awesome.
something I'm interested in. So, all right, cool. And then, guys, for myself, of course, check out the Twitter, check out the Substack. Head on over to the Old Glory Club where you can see a bunch of my other work these days. I'll be over there in 15 minutes running the Pony Express radio podcast. So definitely tune in, listen to that one. But thanks for coming by, gents, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for having us.